We wanted to kick this off. We're here doing GTC. Obviously, AI is we're doing the Super Bowl of AI, and physical AI is really really important area that that Nvidia itself covered quite a bit during the event, and this is very coincidental that we're kicking this off. And what a great way to kick off is to have a rare female founder in the space with us for our first Hard Things event. So Veena, welcome. And before we get into Cartesian Kinetics, take us back. What's the origin story? What were you doing before this, and what moments made you say, I have to go build this?
Sure. Thank you, Vitaly, for the opportunity. It's great to be here. Can you guys hear me?
Yep. There we go.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me here. It's always nice to, as startups, it's always nice to talk about ourselves and kind of showcase what we do. So thank you for playing audience. So feel free to cut me short and ask me any questions whenever you want. So I've for donkey's years I've been in the supply chain space, almost 2 decades of experience. Like Vitaly said, I am co-founder at Cartesian and I head the software at Cartesian. I started my journey at Intel, where we were integrating the data flows from different streams, trying to make the production at fabs a lot more efficient. And that's where my interest in supply chain stemmed from. And from then on, I've built automation systems along with teams, building systems for first parts assembly in the first mile. So it's like assembly of components for automotives, FMCG. So we've done all of that, automated testing. Then from there to the middle mile, built packaging systems, material handling systems. In the last mile, we built a platform that was this is more a complete tech platform for onboarding partners for last mile delivery. So over the years, I've kind of seen the transition from hard automation, where pretty much everything was done a fixed way. So there was like a specific part that had to be automated. There was no flexibility in the system, and I've seen how the flexibility robotics has kind of influenced things to be a lot more dynamic. And now the same automation can kind of handle different workflows, handle different types of parts. So there's a lot of variety that's come in there. And I've also seen the transition in terms of how data has been handled. I mean, it's so from initial days, data used to be in these automation systems, just an SD card actually having a data which you pull from a PLC. From there, IoT and industrial IoT to where we are today in terms of physical AI. So I and my co-founders have been in this robotics space for many years and seen this transition. And we wanted to kind of put all these learnings together in building an automation systems to transform how warehouses operate and make them more productive, more automated, primarily focusing on the order fulfillment and returns processing use case. And that is a trigger for Cartesian.
Should we do the video and do a little demo of
Sure.
Cartesian? So let me kick that off real quick.
Warehouses are under pressure. Faster fulfillment demands rising labor costs and infrastructure that wasn't built for automation. Autonomous mobile robots, or AMRs, promise flexibility, but they struggle in narrow aisles and aren't able to handle inventory stored at elevation. And traditional ASRS systems, too rigid, too slow to install, and too expensive for most operators. That's why we built Cart Plus, the world's first omni-rack robotics platform. Cart Plus retrofits directly onto your existing racking systems, turning them into high-performance automated systems without replacing what you already have or disrupting operation. It's powered by 4 tightly integrated components. Smart robots that pick and replenish fast. Modular rails that install easily on your current racks. Overhead paths that eliminate floor congestion entirely. And vertical lifts that handle any height, from low-clearance mezzanine setups to 40-foot bays. There's no floor prep. No need for custom racks or proprietary totes, and no need for new permits. Just fast, intelligent automation, one aisle at a time. And with our digital twin, you can emulate the entire system in your warehouse with real customer data before a single part is installed and capital resources are deployed. It's performance you can prove up front. Cart Plus delivers up to 5 times more throughput, installs in under 6 weeks, and cuts costs by up to 50%, all while leveraging your existing footprint. You don't need to start over, you just need to start smarter. Cart Plus by Cartesian Kinetics. Automating any rack, any process, any site. Learn more at cartesiankinetics.com.
So one of the let me kill the audio here. This Microsoft Teams setup is a little tricky. So Steve Blank, I mean, raise your hand if you know who Steve Blank is. I would hope everybody or almost everybody knows. So Steve Blank wrote an article about 15, 16 years ago now, and he made a really interesting observation that connecting your market or your new product to something that already existed and showing as an evolution is a lot easier to bring it to market than something new. And he used the Replay TV, if you remember Replay TV or Web TV back in the day, versus BlackBerry, where Replay TV, instead of saying, hey, we're a digital VCR, they said, we're this new category, and they had to create this mind space for people. But BlackBerry very smartly kind of evolved from a pager to a two-way pager to a phone. And that's a great lesson. And you guys are doing something similar, where you're doing a retrofit essentially on existing warehouses instead of doing clean sheet. Talk a little bit about kind of how you've come to that solution.
So our where we came to this was primarily we realized very quickly that warehouses need automation. If we look at the warehousing space, today there's demand. I mean, let's look at the demand side, right? When the customers, as you and I as customers, have seen fulfillment go from like 5 days delivery to same day delivery to now same in Amazon. I was reading yesterday that they want to go for a 3 to 4 hour delivery cycle. So the shortening fulfillment times means you need to automate. You can't do that with just like people running around the warehouse and picking stuff. Then there is warehousing is a fairly cutthroat industry. So there's very small margins that you work with. So you need to be efficient and work your money well to ensure that you make the returns. When warehouses try to innovate in terms of doing a cost plus pricing, doing a outcome based pricing, so all of that kind of you need to retain your margin, and for that you need automation. So that's on the demand side. And on the supply side, like you talked about GTC, I mean, so data centers have been growing. Prologis, which has been one of the largest players providing warehouses for rentals, has now kind of pivoted. This year, I think about 40% of their revenues are going to come from data centers. So there is now going to be land that's going to be repurposed for data centers and other use cases, which means that the supply of these warehouses is going to be lesser. So there's going to be that much more squeeze on the warehouses to be efficient, to be more vertical, to use available space more productively. And last but not the least, warehouses have there's a lot of temp staff who work in warehouses. So almost 38 to 40% of staff who work in warehouses are temp staff, and this kind of scales up a little more during the peak season. So when the volumes are the highest. And it's not easy for somebody who doesn't know the layout to go around the warehouse picking stuff. So you need to have something where it becomes much more easy, where somebody who is a novice can be trained and onboarded in like quick time. In 5 minutes, he knows exactly what to do, and becomes a repeated process. So there was demand both from the supply side and demand side. And if I could continue that, so while we saw a need for automation, we saw that when you thought about automation, and I'm sure if I asked anybody a question, I mean, I was talking to a few people. When you say warehouse robotics, the immediate question is, oh, Amazon, do you build this for Amazon, right? So, but there are tens and thousands of warehouses in the US today which are not Amazon operated. And those warehouses don't find it easy to adopt automation because they are not robotic ready warehouses. So even before you kind of go down the automation journey, you need to bring in, do a floor prep. The AMRs, which traditionally have the least friction to get into a warehouse, even they require like shiny floors. And then you have racking structures that are already in place. You've invested in infrastructure that's that's been used over the years. You've invested in fire suppression systems. Typically in warehouses, you have like water that runs through the racking structures, which is a requirement because in case of emergencies, you want to kind of use that. Then in all those systems, you don't want to like rip and replace, because if any infrastructure change requires a city like a permit to be approved, and that takes like few months, maybe a few weeks to a few months. So all of this is cost upfront before you can actually invest in the automation itself. And then on the software front, there are legacy systems that are there in place. There are management systems that are warehouse management systems, ERP, that's being used in the warehouse. And integrating with them is not easy. And each of these 3PLs have their own quirks with respect to how these systems kind of work. And you need to have a system that you need to bring in automation that can work around all these constraints, that makes it seamless, that can install quickly. None of these warehouses can afford disruption, right? When they are a money-making engine at the end of the day. So there's opportunity cost and deployment of automation. So
this sounds like a lot of experience, because a lot of times startups will dream up of this imaginary scenario where they're starting with a clean sheet and it's going to be perfect from day one. The reality is, when you're dealing with an industry like that, you have to be realistic about what they'll take on. So let's zoom out a little bit. This is obviously a hardware startup, but you're a software person within it. For investors and founders in the room, what makes it harder to, let's say, fundraise for a hardware startup, but what makes it more exciting for you at this time in history that we are?
I think for me, what's super exciting is people are realizing that the power of integrating hardware and software. I don't think any automation today can work in silos. You need to have perfect integration. Now there are a lot of these learning models that are being integrated into automation systems, but none of these will actually work until unless you have that last mile touch, where you have sensory data that feeds back and makes these learning engines that much more productive. You need that like software running across a stack, talking seamlessly with hardware, making it perform the way you imagined it to be. So that's super exciting for me. And if I were to kind of take that and abstract it out and say, this is how we've used our learnings, we look at AI and the physical AI at Cartesian on 3 different axes. We look at it as a tool for increasing predictability of operations. So like any data that we work with is integrated into a unified metrics base, and that gets fed into our learning models, and that gives, like, any customer can actually query using a chat interface, try to understand what's happening, and it's a knowledge graph that we keep building on, and we feed our code base through that, we feed all regular running data through that. So this becomes like a self-learning system that grows as the scale of the system improves. So that's on the predictability front. And then we also have, on the axis of growth, there is how you process these orders. I spoke about how we build robotics for order fulfillment, right? The way you fulfill these orders, when you want to sequence these orders so that it's most efficient to present a tote. So what we do is, to just give you a background, maybe you saw the video. You saw how we place items within those totes that get distributed within a racking structure, right? So when you present a tote for an associate to pick from, you want that associate to pick to as many orders as possible. So how do you sequence your orders? How do you ensure that the efficiency of the picker is improved 5x, 10x? So a lot of that depends on the orchestration. So how do you present the totes faster? Which robot actually gets a task to go present the tote? How do you now ensure that the robot takes the right path to come in? So all of that is the productivity bit. So the last bit is a scale. I mean, as we grow, we want to ensure. I was talking to a few people. So warehouses typically follow the 80-20 rule. So at any point of time, there are some SKUs that are super high demand, and this is not constant. So you want to integrate a demand forecasting engine, ensure that that's kind of feeding back into what gets stored in our automated system. You don't want to invest automating everything in a warehouse. You want to focus your money and energy on what gives you value for the buck. So that's where our learning engine, our orchestration engine kind of figures out how the system needs to kind of refactor itself. You can almost imagine it like if Windows used to have this mnemonic of defragging, where you have these small. Now I'm giving away my age by giving this this kind of an example. They used to have this cool animation where squares used to keep running around, and in the memory hard disk there was like one segment which used to get compacted with all the storage, and we constantly keep doing that. We use our learning engine to figure out what SKUs need to be placed and how do you kind of move stuff around to make it more efficient. So on these different axes, we keep integrating our software with the hardware to make it easier for the customer. So
I remember about 10 years ago when AI was starting to kind of crystallize on the horizon, and the big fear was that, the example I used in all the talks I did around that time was that the most popular profession in America is a professional driver. And with autonomous driving, which is finally coming around, 9 million jobs of drivers could be wiped out. Lo and behold, it's actually the lawyers and bankers that it came for first, right? But we are now talking about automating warehouses. On the one hand, you mentioned, that the demand is such that it cannot be executed by humans, realistically. But on the other hand, we are taking potentially, but I'd like to hear your thought. We're taking away this category of blue-collar work to a certain degree, right? So how do you think about the labor component and how the technology works with the labor in this case?
So we look at this as something that augments human productivity, not replace human productivity. So I don't think we're imagining a case where it's completely dark, where no human is out, and then this system magically just does everything. So our last touch, like for example, I don't know if the video showed, but we present the tote, but it's still the human who actually picks out of the tote, because that last mile of picking, there is so much variety of product that's presented. The picking robots are less efficient than actual humans in picking. So we try to embrace. So what we do is, we try to gamify how we present the tasks. So operators are always engaged, associates are always engaged. We kind of give them different variety of tasks. So we ask them to do cycle counting, we ask them to do replenishment, we ask them to do picking. We kind of vary what an operator does at any point of time. And also what we do is we involve them in how we want to grow the system. So people are actually excited that now working with a new toy. So people, it's a matter of pride that they're picking off a robotic system. So people actually come to their management. I'm sorry. We've seen people come to the management and say, I want to start using the system. So there's some aspiration level that's kind of tied to using the system. So overall, will we? That's on how we kind of work with associates. But warehouses find it very, very hard to recruit people who are associates. We talk about cutting manpower, but then people don't find manpower when you need it, and scaling up and scaling down because of the vagaries of the volumes in the warehouse over the seasons, typically these 3PLs house multiple brands, and then each of these brands have their own demand cycles. So and each of them have their peaks. There's like between a sale and a non-sale period, there's like almost 10x difference in volumes, and it's not easy to staff humans up and down based on that kind of a requirement. So you need to be judicious in how you balance out automation with people, and till now touch wood, we've not found any pushback towards that.
So you guys use the term omni-rack. Can you explain that a little bit for everybody? What does that mean?
Sure. So OmniRack is, we work with standardized racks. We don't try to build anything around proprietary racks, which is what most robotic systems use. That makes it that much more easier for a warehouse to use an existing racking system. So we go and put in our parts on which our robots move into existing racking systems. So that means that now magically one aisle becomes an automated aisle, and we can kind of go incrementally adding automation to more and more aisles as and when the volumes in the customer place scale. That alluded to how we don't do any floor prep and all that. So all of this gets managed in the software. So we do a one-time calibration of the system in the software, and then from then on, any bot task gets managed in the software. So any imperfections in the floor, how the robot has to behave, all of that gets tuned based on how the software has already mapped out the whole system. We can work with WireDex, which means that we don't need to change out the fire suppression. We can still have sprinklers run through the system. We don't require a strictly cuboidal kind of space. If there's any change in the structure, if let's say you have a pillar like that that's protruding out, we can work around that. So we try. All of this is how we try to kind of make it easy for adoption and installation. And we have just 4 basic subsystems that we work with. So it's just the bot parts, the robots themselves, the lifts, and the pick stations that the associate picks from. And these are kind of put together in different configurations. You imagine this more like a building block set. So it's like a Kinetics. You build it in different configurations, and lo and behold, now that offers a different throughput. So since it's all very modular, installation is like a 4 to 6 week exercise for us, and we can work with any of the installation crew that the customer is familiar with and has worked with before, and who are familiar with the floor layout of their warehouse, and we kind of put. So all of this makes adoption a lot more relatable for the customer. So
and you have orchestration layer in the software. Talk a little bit about in this super fast-moving space. We're just talking to a few different people, but like every 3 months, it's like a baby right now. Every 3 months, the market is completely different. The technology is completely different. All the models are different. When you're implementing, something, you're obviously taking what's available out there, and you're also putting your own software on top of it. Mm-hmm. How do you manage this insane pace of development and not go crazy with it?
Yeah, I think it's the same modular approach that we use in our software as well. So all our So our overall orchestration is like has a lot of black holes, and we can plug in and plug out algorithms. So you can imagine this as an orchestra where dynamically how all these pieces come together can change. So right from my start of my career, I've realized that you need to be able to dynamically change how data is managed, how material flow is managed. At any point of time, like for example, you could have orders at one time which are all focused on single items being ordered, and you could have cases where you have like store orders which are like hundreds of items. So the way you process one like single item orders versus a store order of that category cannot be the same. So the software will keep morphing itself based on the order profile. So that's the ability that we've built in right from the architecture stage at the software. So we're not really scared of change. We know that we can actually bring in more of those components, and that can kind of merge itself into the existing software layer.
So how much software do you write versus Claude Code?
It is a mixture of both. We have been using
I'm increasingly hearing more and more very senior engineers saying the last time they wrote code was December.
Yes, I'd vote for something similar. So we have a very large automated testing engine that we built out manually over the last few months, and that still becomes the guardrail on which we check AI generated code. So there is a quick back and forth that happens. So anything goes through a very detailed unit testing cycle, goes through this automated testing cycle, and we use digital twins quite a lot. So anything pre-deployment gets run through the actual twin of the configuration of the installation that's there. So customer orders can run the full stack. So we have a simulator that runs, that's an emulator for the hardware that actually captures the physics of the whole system. Then we have a simulator that does all the edge compute. So it's exactly the same stack that runs in the physical system that runs on the digital twin. And then we have all the orchestration, that's the interfacing for the orders, the interfacing with the warehouse management system, all of that works in the cloud layer. So all of this comes in, the code gets tested and goes through the cycles. But we have been there's no point in us fighting and saying we won't use Claude. So we have used Claude fairly productively. Many of us, we did a recent refactor of our orchestration layer using Claude. So it's been good. It's been a mix of using our engineering brain. So I think that the tech architecture, how the whole system comes together is still all us. Obviously, for the smaller tasks is something that we liberally use Claude for.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting world for programmers especially. I think that's the tip of the spear, right? Everybody else is going to come after. How many of you use Claude Law? Claude Law, no. So if we generalize a little bit, there are some founders in the room who are probably a couple of stages before where you are now. You know, we call this series Hard Things because hardware is hard, and pun intended. And it's talk a little bit about the fundraising journey and how your team kind of came together, and what were some of the challenges of kind of getting this off the ground that you faced?
So our fundraising journey started off in our two initial investors were Clear Ventures and Celesta Partners. So Clear Ventures is a very software focused fund, a lot of AI orchestration that they invest in. And Celesta is ex-Foxconn, so they came with a very hardware mindset. So we actually spoke to a lot of VCs because we knew this was a tough space. We wanted to have that mind match happening before we actually got them on board on our cap table. So we took almost 7-8 months talking to different VCs where we found a connect with these VCs. That's when we got them on the cap table. And since then, the other people who've joined us on the cap table, which is K Capital and F Prime, they understand and they've been associated with the company for many months. They've been understanding the journey we've been going through. So there was a meeting of minds. So like any of our board meetings are very productive because we get ideas, we are very responsive to the feedback that we get, and we kind of go back with demonstrated evidence on what we've done, what's worked, what's not worked. So I think and when you can relate to your investor, I think that's super important, because you need to enjoy when you can't dread every meeting that you have with the investor. You need to look forward to that. You need to get value out of that. And I think the fact that we've had experience, like one of our co-founders actually was running a different company. He came to do due diligence on our technology, and he was so impressed that he kind of joined us.
That's quite a vote of confidence.
So I think in some sense the team has come together. We know each other and we have that trust, and we have common conviction in what we are building. Like our chief architect is somebody who went to college with me, went to school with me, and know him for like many years. So I think the fact that every day we can look forward to going and building something, and we are having fun doing it, right? That's super important. And So we did, when we took almost like 6 months to do a very detailed market analysis, did a secondary analysis, did a primary analysis, spoke to different customers, found out what really worked. And really a product, we've not pivoted. I mean, maybe we've done some market pivots, but essentially the product has stayed true to its initial visualization, how we thought it would work. It's primarily been the same thing.
So close your eyes for a second. Where do you see Cartesian in 5 years?
I see, if I want to zoom out and see, I think I want Cartesian to be known as the company that can move atoms with the agility of data. I think that is really going to be the last frontier. You have all this AI. I mean, how do you ensure that you move matter to keep up with the speed of thought, speed of compute? That's where I want us to go towards.
That's quite a vision for all the VCs in a room. That's a pitch. That's a good pitch. I think that's strong, and you're starting relatively small to that. So last question from me, and then folks, you can think of questions as well. We have some time. You've gone through this journey. You're only maybe in the first 2 innings, still early. But what are some of the things, for the founders, for other founders in the room who are earlier stage? What would you tell them, to focus on at this, the time that we're in right now, this exciting and anxious time because everything's moving so quickly in AI?
I think that maybe if I abstract out into 2 learnings, one is flexibility is not an add-on. That has to be part of your DNA. I think any industry, any solution that you go after, your tech stack, your hardware has to be able to quickly morph itself based on what works and what doesn't work. If you don't build in that flexibility right up front when you're designing the product, it's never going to work out. So that's one. And second is, I think what I've really enjoyed when we're talking to customers is how we dream life together and how we dream about transformation together. So you asked a question about whether we've had pushback on automation. I think a large portion of why we've not had a pushback on automation is because the customer becomes a partner in the journey. So automation is not a destination. Automation is not a one-time exercise. It's a journey that's a transformational journey that the customer goes through over a period of time. And as long as you dream of the future together, there is a lot more vested interest in both parties to make it work. I think these are 2 key learnings that I would probably.
Very good. Thank you for that. So we'll take some questions. Yes. Go ahead.
You mentioned flexibility. You also mentioned last mile and also spiky demand moments. Curious your overall approach. You can share more about how you design human in the loop, including the malleability and customization of the system.
Yes. So we do a lot of what-if analysis using our digital twins to figure out what will happen if the demand peaks, if the order profile changes, if the kind of let's say there's a breakdown that happens. What happens? So all the workflow gets tested out. So we run a lot of simulations like pre-built, and we continue to. So how we handle the flex is. I don't know if you noticed in the racking structure, we can actually convert more of those storage locations into pick locations. So if you have more demand, you can have more associates pick from the same system. So that's the kind of flexibility that helps us manage these kind of peaks and troughs.
I was going to ask a question that is really a conversation starter for everyone in the room, and it's as follows. We live in this bubble here where everybody wants to invest in software, and I know that's what you do. But really, the future of robotics is still something that's creating physical things, and which is capital intensive. And I think it's very scary, especially at the seed stage, for an investor to come forth and plunk down, a first check in what's likely to be a much steeper mountain to climb. And I wanted to know if you had any stories to share about your seed financing and how you kind of got off the ground and how you got investors to get over the hump of, this isn't just software, it's software and hardware, both of which are important. And this is for everyone in the room, including some of my investor friends. And yes, I'm looking at you.
I think that's where talking to a Celesta was super helpful, because they had actually gone through the experience of scaling, because they were part of Foxconn. They had actually scaled a hardware company. So they've gone through the transformation of growing a small hardware company into multiple $1 billion. So talk to people who kind of understand the journey, who've built hardware themselves. I think that meeting of minds, strategic investors, these were financial investors, but people who are kind of relate to the value proposition that you're going after. I think that meeting of minds becomes super important.
Customers, talk to customers.
And talk to customers. Get as much voice of the customer possible, and that's, nothing can beat that. How you kind of tweak the product, build in as many features as much as you can accommodate to ensure that the product will be successful. And last but not the least, build in flexibility to ensure that in case some system does not work as intended, it can be quickly reconfigured to work with any other use case. And because it's all building blocks that we work with today, if we can change it from an order fulfillment use case to a returns use case by just changing out the software layer. Everything in the hardware remains.
Point, yeah. So yeah. I'm going to point to my friend Igor, who is an investor at Cortical Ventures, who has invested in seed stage robotics companies. And I'm going to ask you, Igor, what is it that makes you flip the switch and invest? And what advice do you have for startup founders in robotics and physical things about how to approach venture investors?
Well, first of all, I think things are kind of changing. I think it used to be the case. Nobody invested in hardware. I think the script is about to flip. Well, soon enough, nobody's going to want to invest in software, because apparently you can just
no modes in software.
The software comes out. So why don't you invest in that? But they haven't figured out how AI cannot build AI yet, physical. Yeah. So anyways, I actually think it's changing. I think increasingly there is lots of interest in things that create a moat, and now it's increasingly likely that hardware is actually a thing that creates a moat, not software.
Until the robots can build themselves.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But some of the
then we don't have to invest in anything.
But the software companies that are raising hundreds of millions to invest in data center, they make the robotics company raises pretty quaint in comparison.
There's a lots of physical intelligence, skill, figure.
Also, the history of Silicon Valley is actually hardware. That's what people forget.
Yeah.
And actually, some of the core investors that made money during the dot-com boom that are kind of fundamental to what Silicon Valley became were hardware and R&D investors first.
Tell us your name.
I'm Yoella. Thank you so much I also run a fund, but we incubate both hardware and software companies, and we acquire them after VCs no longer want to invest in them. So I am responsible for being as flexible as possible and finding turnaround use cases to really figure out how to scale companies that were not able to be scaled the first time around. But the question that I wanted to ask you, so I've been doing a little bit of research in the space, and because you guys invested so much time and bandwidth in the kind of market analysis, what have you found is kind of like the biggest problem with your type of technology applying to harder kind of items, let's say, that are larger, that basically don't fit a shelf, let's put it, because there's so many in this space that are really focused on 3PL targets, let's put it that way. What have you found is kind of like the main technical issue or an operating issue where essentially nobody that I've found that's good is actually focusing on larger items that are less scalable to move, actually?
Okay. So the way we've gone after the problem is we don't try to automate the large items. we know that there are better technologies that can handle that. There are, if you go through over the years, automation systems have been built for material handling, for pallet-based material handling and large product material handling. So they're one-off. So the way we've gone after it is more a software play, in the sense that we can integrate and allow multimode fulfillment, and our orchestration can very seamlessly work with human pickers out. And so we focus only on the top 20% of the SKUs. So the long tail SKUs can be picked by human pickers, can be picked by AMRs. We kind of integrate with them, and we guide the picking for those. And then if there are larger SKUs, we can push pick tasks to. So what we do is, typically we have static shelves on which we house those, and we push the associate to pick from those shelves rather than from our system directly. So it's been more orchestration approach that we've adopted to handle this.
Yeah, thank you, yeah.
Private equity has entered the chat. Okay, one last question, and we can take it offline and continue the discussion around drinks and snacks. One more good question. Going once, going twice. All right, then.
Let me ask the question.
Okay, go
And
ahead.
thank you so much, Veena. So what challenges are you seeing in terms of scaling your model, right? So because I think it's tied to more people who have, or corporations who have very sophisticated, already existing infrastructure. So are you going for like top warehouses or top companies warehouses, or are you open to any? Like, what's your strategy in terms of reaching to the customers, and then what's the challenge with scaling that?
Not at all. We're not definitely not going after the top warehouses. We are actually want to make warehousing automation simpler for people who are struggling with automation. Like, for example, one of the customers where we went live with had a WMS system which has been used for almost 30 years. And there was one person who's written the WMS, and that person is holding it so close to his chest, not opened it out to APIs, so there's no integration that can happen. So we have to work around that and do a scan-based integration. So we don't want to go to the Amazons of this world and bring automation to them. There are a lot of players who do that already, and that's not where we differentiate ourselves. So, and then there are a lot of 3PLs who are struggling to automate, and that's the houses that cry for automation, and that's the market we are going after.
Okay, another question.
Yes, it's less a question, it's more, I appreciate you put together such a small and intimate group. So before we all go to random walk, then can we say whoever wants then can introduce what they do, so then that's become more efficient in terms of the communication.
Why not? We could do a
I think
round.
that's going to take a very long time, because people tend to take a few minutes.
Give them 10 seconds.
All right.
Adi, I want to start with you. Adi,
Sure.
tell us about yourself. Special guest from Boston.
So hi, my name is Adi. I came from Boston. We run a venture lab in Cambridge. What we do is we originate AI startups and then we sell them. We look at 3 verticals: manufacturing, health tech, and energy. And we have a very good proposition in manufacturing because we understand the space very well. So we'd love to chat if you're in that space.
Thank you.
Vlad.
I'm Vlad Kosenko. I'm working in the energy infrastructure space.
Thank you, Vlad.
Andre Chile, corporate partner here at Foley & Lardner.
And Andre helps startups get formed, financed, scaled for growth, bought, and sold.
Yeah, it's nice to meet everybody here. My name is Evan. I found a startup in Bay Area, Santa Clara. We do dexterous humanoid robotic hands and the data collection system to control it. And I used to work at Tesla designing their hands. So
Good to meet you, Evan.
Give yourself a hand.
we're eventually going to build a robot on a robot hand.
Start with a hint.
So work your way down.
My name is Adam Olivato. I've worked in several different robotics startups and labs and large companies, and I am an aspiring founder. So if you want any insights on from the inside, I have some of those stuff I'm talking about.
Misha, I'm working with Italia, and we're trying to bring great companies to the market.
Olivia Chen, I run a early stage deep tech angel network. Erica Jiang, operator turned venture partner, AI deep tech and health.
I'm Dale Hitt, co-founder at Veena. We're doing manufacturing automation with physical AI.
Katrina Miko, leading marketing for Mavka Capital.
Hi, I'm Tian Yueyu. I'm the founder and CEO of Q30 Sensing. So we make sensors that allow you to capture in 3D manner. So we're a spatial data company, so making the 3D data capture as easily as taking a video.
Nice.
I'm Conrad. I'm a co-founder of PowerSync. We make a database sync engine for syncing data between cloud and edge devices.
I'm Darby Chan. I'm a patent attorney at Foley & Lardner. I advise companies and investors on how to protect their innovations in medicine and healthcare, particularly those that cross over with devices like surgical, medical robotics, sensors, vision systems, and the like.
I'm Taka. I built a rehabilitation robot business in Japan before, and now I'm trying to build a business with human robots.
Which kind of robot?
Human robot.
Human
now,
robotics.
Yeah, I want.
Welcome, Tinko.
Igor Tabor, Cortical Ventures, an early stage investor in all things AI and robotics.
Rajan Dada, founder of business orchestration layer for post-merger integrations.
I'm a partner at Foley and represent merging companies and investors in all sorts of corporate transactions from M&A, investments, joint ventures, whatever.
Yes, David, from the staff, I'm focusing the energy landscape system and also for the electricity trading. Okay.
PJ Marsh, nice to meet you guys. We're at Sorensen Capital. It's our early stage B2B software and a little bit of hardware. So pre-seed through Series A for the most part, all B2B.
And you're right upstairs, right?
And we're on the 6th floor, so it's a short little walk.
He's not here for the free food. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm Yoella, managing partner at 77 Labs, and we basically acquire software companies and turn them around using our proprietary AI suite of systems, and former multiple founder with a couple of exits. So
Only software, no hardware.
hardware as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Two
You
hardware.
said software.
All right, thank you very much. Why don't we give our speaker, our brave speaker, first speaker, a hand. Thank you, Veena, for joining us. And please stay and meet each other. And if you're interested in defense tech, come talk to me.
Thank you so much.